Alright, welcome back. Sorry for that little interruption. YouTube, 10-minute video length. Alright, so here we go. We are now selecting our mask that we've added to our photograph, and we are going to now actually go ahead and start painting this out. Make sure that this is actually on black, and when that's on black you'll then be able to sort of paint some of this stuff out. And right now I have my flow a little bit low. You can put the airbrush on. Also make sure you have some soft edges here. Just click on your little brush thing up here and you'll be able to adjust the hard and the soft edge of your brush. And I'm going to make this actually pretty soft, so I'll keep this relatively low here. And so I'll start painting this out. I'm going to put this opacity just a little bit lower because I don't want to go too extreme too quick. I always like to sort of do things a little more subtle, a little more soft, and then that way I don't kind of like overdo it right from the beginning and then have to kind of undo and go back. So I'll just kind of go through here, just sort of darken things and paint things out. Now you don't have to completely remove that, because some of that background sort of goes into the background a little bit as well with those clouds, so you can sort of leave a little bit of that going on. That's fine, especially like that little part by his head doesn't have to completely go away. But as far as this part, this edge here, we're going to sort of just melt that away. Bump this up just a little bit more. And same thing with her arm here. We're just going to sort of fade that out, make my brush a little bit bigger, use the soft edge of the brush to really blend and soften that edge away there. Okay, so that's pretty good. That's a pretty good start to the image. We basically have the background of around those actors sort of blended in with this black area of the actual clouds that I've created. So the next step is to really start to turn these actors into the characters that we want them to look like on our movie poster. And if you noticed in the other movie poster, or in several of the movie posters, you'll see that his eyes are very sort of interesting, as well as let's hop back over to this one for a second. He's got those that pale skin and those yellow eyes. So that's kind of the look that we're wanting to go for. So we'll go ahead and do that here. Zoom back out here for a minute. So what we'll do is we're going to duplicate this layer. I'm going to go ahead and duplicate that right there, and you'll notice the layer mask actually gets duplicated as well. So what you may want to do before moving forward is you can always kind of get rid of that layer mask, because we kind of like the way this is. We're not going to need it again right now, so you can right click and do apply, and then it's going to merge that layer mask. So we'll just go ahead and hit the duplicate there, and this particular layer is we want to give a little bit of a soft focus effect. So we're going to do blur. We're going to do a Gaussian blur on this one, and we don't want to blur it all the way out this time, so we're going to just sort of blur this out just a little bit, maybe around 3 or 4 pixels here, and then we're going to change this to overlay. And this creates like a really dramatic effect here. You can see it's a little bit dark, so I'm going to look for another effect here really quick just to see if I can come up with something that I think works a little bit better. And I'm just going to put that on hard light for right now and just sort of bring this maybe down to about 50%. That'll give me a little bit more of a dramatic effect. And then I'm going to do image adjustments. I'm going to do curves, and I'm going to go ahead and bump up my curves just a little bit as well. And so you can see that I start getting already kind of a stylized effect here. I'm going to bring up the light on the curve just enough, and so we get this sort of stylized kind of glow here on the characters. You can kind of see what's going on. Now, because I don't want to blur out their eyes or anything too much, I'm going to go over to that layer, create a mask, and then using the black, I'm going to use the bracket key on my keyboard, and that's going to actually allow me to actually mask out some of the areas on this this photo here, so that the blur effect doesn't get applied to these areas. And then I'm also, because I do want to keep the eyes and everything really super sharp, I can also go in here and use my use the sharpen tool just a little bit, maybe just on the eyes here on this layer, just to kind of help them pop a little bit, maybe the lips a little bit. And don't go too overboard with that, because the sharpen tool can really do some damage if you're not careful with it. It'll really mess up the image. So now we've made some of those elements stand out a little bit more, and that looks pretty good. So the next step that I want to start working on is really getting the color out of this photograph. Okay, so so that we don't accumulate too many layers, I'm going to go ahead and click those two and merge those together. And now we have that, which is fine. Now the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to actually make this a black and white layer. So once again, I'm going to click this and drag it down. You can see the background will continue to duplicate here. We can always paint that out a little bit later again. I'm not concerned about it right now. I'm just working on the actual skin tones and things like that. So I'm going to come down here to black and white, and in Photoshop you can actually just use desaturate or some of the other tools if you don't have Photoshop CS3. And I'm going to go for sort of like a high contrast kind of look on this. I want to look at the infrared, and that's a little bit too dramatic. So I'll just hide that for a moment so you can kind of see what's going on with their skin tones here. And that's a little bit too much. And I think I'm going to go with the green filter, because I kind of like what it does to the skin tones, and that's pretty cool. So I'm going to come back over to my layers, and I'm going to go through here for just a second and just kind of see. Now this linear light and the vivid light is pretty cool, but I actually like the hard light. You see that look that it gives it? Gives it a real nice stylized sort of look to create this movie poster. So it's a really nice effect there. So I'm going to go ahead and actually duplicate this layer, because I'm going to use it again in just a second, and I'm going to take that off. And let's see here, I'm going to leave that alone, and then I'm going to come back to this layer, and we want to start removing some of the color out of his face a little bit further, because we want to really give her skin a nice warm glow and his sort of a dead sort of grayish look. So we'll come to this layer here, and I'm going to zoom in so you can kind of see what's going on. And we're going to take, in Photoshop there's this little tool over here, it's called the sponge tool, and one of the modes in this sponge tool is either saturate or desaturate. So we're going to put on desaturate, put this to a flow of about 80, and I'm going to make that brush a little bit bigger. I'm going to put my airbrush on here, and we're going to essentially just start to remove some of the color here right out of the skin tones. And make sure that you actually have your color layer selected. I had my black and white layer selected. Since that layer is already black and white, you'll end up just not really doing anything unless you have that color one selected. So here we are, just kind of removing some of the color. You don't have to remove all of it. You don't have to go like overboard and make him look like a mime or a clown or something. But basically, just really take out some of the skin, the color there, some of those reddish sort of obvious human skin tones there. And that way, like, I kind of, if you notice, I sort of avoided around the eyes just a little bit, just because I really wanted to retain that deep sort of dark look in his eyes there. And then if you want, you can actually warm up her skin tones just by creating a new layer and then choosing something like a middle sort of brownishy red sort of skin tone here. Just find something sort of like that, for instance. And if you apply that directly to that layer, you'll want to definitely, you'll see that it's going to cover it up pretty quickly. So I actually like to use some different color modes here. You can usually scroll through and find something that can sort of liven up the skin tones a little bit. So we'll just leave it on that for right now. Just leave that on soft light. You see that soft light just gives her a little bit of a warmer glow to her skin there. Nothing too dramatic. So that looks pretty good. Now the next thing we really want to work on is his eyes, and we'll actually do that in the next tutorial. So now that we've gotten this thing pretty well, we'll take it to the next level, and we'll in the next video we'll try to wrap up this poster demonstration. Alright, we'll see you in the next video. Thanks.